This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff, and with me is my co-host, Mark Souza. We are on the road to the Super Bowl, the last stop before...
We're actually in an office.
Studio, but whatever. We...
House.
Well, let's not destroy the... what's the word? Destroy the illusion.
The mystique of it all?
Yeah, the mystique, man. We have the little padding, like, soundproof stuff around here. Well, this is a studio.
We're at a studio
apartment. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, before we talk about the Super Bowl, though, I actually have a story to tell. After I finished editing our show yesterday and I was driving home, I got like 3 or 4 like instant like back-to-back notifications, and I knew it was my sports notifications because, like, different noises. I was like, oh, I wonder what the heck happened. As soon as I parked the car, looked at my phone, and I saw it. Kristaps Porzingis has been traded. And I literally shouted, WTF, but not the letters.
You shouted that by yourself?
Yes.
Interesting.
I was legitimately shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw a trade coming because... management was looking to move him before the deadline after their meting.
It just came out of it. Just like we knew they were talking. I just didn't think it was going to happen right like yesterday. I didn't know they were that close.
Yeah. So what was the full trade?
Well, Kristaps Porzingis is going to the Dallas Mavericks, as well as Cornelia and Tim Hardaway Jr. Like we were talking about in our trade ideas for like Anthony Davis and stuff like that. And the Knicks get Dennis Smith Jr., which we thought he was going to stay. Because he was getting in the starting rotation a little bit. He was starting to get a little more minutes he was playing actually pretty decent too. So it seemed like they were going to keep him. And then Wes Matthews and DeAndre Jordan, so 2 veterans there. 2 first-round picks, which equal to cap space. So this is obviously the Knicks looking for 2 max deals.
2 first-round picks, yeah, and then the ability to have the cap space because now they rid themselves.
That's what I said. This adds,
Tim Hardaway and Courtney Lee.
Yeah, this adds humongous cap space, which sounds like they're obviously going to push hard for 2 max deals in this offseason. And it looks like it's almost people are saying. I saw a lot of like writers and stuff saying it's almost like a foregone conclusion. They're going to push hard for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's almost a foregone conclusion that Kevin Durant's going to sign with the Knicks for multiple reasons, but none bigger than his ties to the Knicks organization are just incredible at this point. Plus, his business partner and manager has been rumored to be part of the Knicks front office, getting a front office position next season. He is a longtime Knicks fan, of course, but that has been in the works for some time. So a lot of people have speculated over the last 2 years that Durant will be steered in the direction of the Knicks, and him and his team will all be rewarded handsomely. So that's obviously the goal for the Knicks.
And there was more along like DeAndre Jordan has relationships with these star players. Like he's good buddies with some of them. So I think that was also like we get him to maybe lure them.
Now, does DeAndre Jordan, is he on the team in a week or two, though? That's the question.
Well, I guess we'll see, but I'm assuming he will be.
Because the Knicks are in full tank mode. They're not trying to play any of these guys that they got.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's more along the lines of just having like a veteran-esque type of to bring in some guys.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if because DeAndre Jordan's an expiring contract, so I mean, They'd have to re-sign him for him to lure players. So.
Yeah, true. But I'm assuming he's not going to have that huge of a contract.
That might be so, but he is making like $20 million a year, and they can't give him more than just a few $1 million if they're going to keep him and get 2 max contract players, which they're obviously trying to do. I don't think DeAndre Jordan's a factor in this trade. I literally think they just swap because
Dennis Smith Jr. is probably the only key factor in this trade.
I've even heard that Dennis Smith Jr. might even be bought out. It's probably unlikely, but there is talk even of that.
I think he's going to stay on the team.
He's on a rookie deal, so it's not that big of a contract.
It's not that big of a loss. But honestly, I thought he was doing well with the Dallas Mavericks after the trade rumors were about, and then when he was getting in the starting rotation a little bit, I thought, wow, he's doing pretty well for himself. I think he's going to stay in Dallas. Next thing you know, he's in New York now. And for Porzingis,
well, I mean, he wasn't doing good in Dallas. Like he had I think 1 game back from.
I was saying he's getting in the rotation. He was being solid, like doing his part. Like
I mean, 1 or 2 games. He's had a really tough season, and obviously there's been a lot of questions about his future in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. But it seemed to almost go away. It seemed like it was going to be like, oh, we're just going to hold on to him, though, type-esque situation. And like you were saying, he had 1 good game as a starter, but it just seemed like he was going to stay there. It seemed like this was all like just blown over. We were all like moved on from it. But I guess they were still looking to trade him. And
I think they were definitely trading him. Maybe they were probably happy that he had a decent game because it raised
more
his
market
value.
Yeah, but it did feel like it was almost like blown over. Like this was not going to happen for a while. Maybe not at the deadline, but maybe in the summer or something. Mm-hmm. But anyways, Porzingis joins Luka Doncic in Dallas, and I must ask you, and Dallas is a little behind in the West, no doubt about it. But with these two playing together, I know Porzingis has some injury issues and question marks.
Big injury issues.
But does this make them more of a threat for this season, or do you think it'd be more of a threat?
I don't
for
think
next?
Porzingis is going to play this year. He's still injured, still rehabbing. He hasn't played in about a year. I think we're about 5 days away from his 1-year anniversary of when he got injured on that play against Giannis last year. So with that being said, look, he's a unicorn, right? That's his nickname. Like he's 7'3", he can do pretty much everything, but we don't know if he's ever going to be healthy. We don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. Ultimately, I think it was a good risk for the Mavericks because they're not going to be able to attract a guy like Kevin Durant or another big-time free agent. So it does make a lot of sense for them to take the risk on Porzingis. But the Mavericks are taking a big risk here. They really are, because if Porzingis doesn't live up to his all-star potential, I think they've definitely lost this trade.
He was an all-star before.
Oh, he's a great talent, but we don't know. He still hasn't done anything in this league, and we don't even know if he can stay healthy. And I do get concerned with guys that are abnormally big. I know NBA players are just abnormal in general, but when you're 7'3", and you rely on a lot of athleticism, it makes you worry. You got to take a step back, and we don't know if this is the first of many injuries for Porzingis or if this was just a freak accident.
Okay, I see what you're getting at. But I think if he comes back and he's healthy, him and Doncic could be a very dangerous duo.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see the upside. You can see why the Mavericks did it.
This could lead to, I'm not saying it's going to lead to anything special, but maybe sneak into a playoff spot in the coming years if they remain.
Oh, I mean, if they don't make the playoffs in the next 2, 3, if they don't make the playoffs next year, this trade is terrible for the Mavericks. Let's just put it that way right now, because if they don't make the playoffs next year, it's literally either Porzingis isn't that good or Porzingis got injured again. If they don't make the playoffs, it's a disaster. They did get rid of
2 first-round picks.
They got rid of 2 first-round picks. They got rid of Dennis Smith Jr., who is a talented player. I mean,
he has potential.
Yeah, I don't know if it might not be the right fit for him in Dallas, but he's still he had a good rookie season.
Honestly, he probably won in this trade out of anybody. If he stays in New York, he could be the biggest. He could be the biggest benefactor from this.
The Knicks, though, I mean, you could end up getting the number 1 pick Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and 2 first-round picks out of this trade. That's a lot. Like that literally is what the Knicks are looking at right now.
But do we know is there protection in these first-round picks? We know the extent.
I'm not sure what the protection is, but if there is, it's probably top 5, if that. So, I mean, yeah, the Mavericks, I like the trade for both teams. I do. But I do think the Mavericks are taking on a lot of risk here because they are acquiring a player who's currently still rehabbing from a major injury, and they're giving up 2 future picks. It's tough. They're also inheriting Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee's contracts, which means the Mavericks aren't going to be able to really make any moves in the offseason, which is okay. It doesn't mean they have to. They're obviously, their big move is getting Porzingis. But if this doesn't work out well, it might keep them a little hamstrung in the coming years in terms of what else they can do.
What is your overall grade of this trade? Like, how would you grade this trade?
I think the Knicks right now got an A. For sure.
Absolutely. Getting 2 first-round picks and a bunch of rookie players and some veterans.
This cannot be overstated. They just got themselves the ability to get 2 max players. I don't think there's a more likely free agent destination for any upcoming free agent than Kevin Durant to New York. Like, you could say any player to this city, and I don't think it's higher probability than Durant to New York. I think that's a foregone conclusion. Kevin Durant will be a Knick next year.
And the thing is, we've said this in the past, how New York, we've always questioned how are they not getting the big players. Well, I think this is a long overdue process now.
They're going to end up with either Kyrie or Kawhi with Durant.
Okay, so you say with Durant they're going to add Kawhi or Kyrie?
I think worst case scenario it's Durant and Jimmy Butler or Kemba Walker.
That's not like a worst case scenario at all.
Yeah, they're going to win this trade, and they're going to win big if they get the number 1 pick. If they get the number 1 pick, the Knicks could go
Zion, and then with Durant and Kyrie or Leonard.
If the Knicks get the number 1 pick, Kevin Durant and another star, this team could be the favorite to win the East next year.
Talk about a turn of events, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you get 3 or 4 great players on one team, 3 or 4 studs on one team, especially in the Eastern Conference.
So Zion would so let's see, Zion. Let's just say Zion, Durant, and let's go Leonard. That's a huge big 3.
And your point guard is Dennis Smith Jr.,
who we know we said is very talented and has a lot of potential. So, what I know kind of why the Mavericks made the trade, but it seems like they gave up a lot for him. Do you agree, or do you think it was the right amount? Because 2 first-round picks, that seems like a big gamble. Like, they obviously are looking for playoff situations the next year or 2.
I mean, the Mavericks with Mark Cuban,
Mark Cuban is a gambler.
Yeah, I mean, he's not afraid to make a big move. I understand why they'd want Porzingis, because you're probably not going to get a guy like Porzingis in free agency to go to Dallas. You also pair him with Luka. You also pair him with Dirk as the liaison to Porzingis. Dallas has established themselves as now the team maybe most preferred by European-based players. I mean, you got Porzingis now getting the torch pass from Dirk, who passed the torch to Luka already. So it makes a lot of sense.
I think it's kind of funny how the Dallas Mavericks, a team where the football team is the America's team, is now a team for it's like a Europe team now. Funny how things work out. But I think it's just
Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee. I mean, they're decent players. I think they're good. This is my thing with Dallas, though. What does Dallas do the rest of the season? Because if I'm them, I don't know if I play these players.
But if you don't have a first round pick, you can't tank. Like, there's no reason to tank.
Did they give up this year's first round pick? I don't know what years they gave up.
That is true. We don't know the extent of the first round picks, but I'm assuming it's this year, next year. That's what I assumed, at least.
Well, you can't trade back-to-back first round picks, so it can't be 2 in a row.
Okay, I didn't actually know that rule.
Yeah, you can only trade up to 4 first-round picks, and they cannot be consecutive years. So that's why when the Rockets offered 4 for Jimmy Butler, it was over 7 years.
Okay,
it was 1 space, 2 space.
They're very specific about their draft trades, aren't they? In the NBA, compared to like the NFL.
Yeah, they just don't want another New Jersey Nets or it was New Jersey.
Billy King incident. Yeah,
Brooklyn now, but they don't want another Nets.
It was.
Celtics
I don't
situation.
blame the Nets. I blame Billy King.
Yeah, that was one of the worst trades in NBA history.
Billy King also ruined the 76ers back in the day as well. So he's just, honestly, to me, he's one of the worst general managers, not just in basketball, but of all time. Because he looks at now instead of the future, and he looks at the now so much that he gives up way too much. And he gave up, they're still feeling the effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And how long ago? It was like, what, 2012, 2013, roughly?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been basically 5-6 years, and they're still feeling the effects. That's how bad it was.
It might have even been longer than that, right?
Really? Was it like, well, what 2011? Even the fact of the matter is, it's been a long time.
They won in 2008, right? The Celtics.
Yes. And I believe they were there for another couple of years, though. Of course, I don't think it was like right after that. I think it took a couple of years to make that trade happen. And I think Jason Terry was also involved in that trade.
Mm-hmm. It was 2014.
So it's been 5 years since this awful trade that the Celtics were salivating at. The reason the Celtics are in the position they're in right now as a potential East favorite is because of that trade.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's
no question about it.
Up for the second part of this decade for sure.
Yeah, and Billy King just destroyed the Nets' future, and they're, like we said, still feeling the effects. And it's 2019, and it's one of these crazy instances where I think when general managers trade a bunch of first-round picks and unprotected and all this stuff for a couple players that are a little past their prime but just have that star power, you're thinking it's so tiny. And Billy King is obviously looking so tiny that
this was the trade.
Okay, let's hear this.
Brooklyn received Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry, and DJ White. And it was the first year in Brooklyn, so it was a Brooklyn Nets trade. Boston received Gerald Wallace, Chris Humphries, Marshawn Brooks, Chris Joseph, Keith Bogans, 3 first-round picks. That was 14, 16, and 18. And the right to swap first-rounders in 17.
I think they did that.
Which they did.
That was Jason Tatum, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Garnett was 37 at the time. Paul Pierce was 36.
That is pushing way too. Like, that is one of the worst trades I've ever heard.
Jason Terry, I think, was 35. They were all in their...
They were gone by a couple of years.
They were all older.
And remember, they signed also...
and then Garnett played there for 1 year and then played for the Timberwolves the next year.
I think also... Who was also on that team? Johnson was also on that. Joe Johnson was also signed by that team for an ungodly amount of money, as well as Derek Williams, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, was it? No, who was it? Was it Williams? It was Williams. I don't think it was Derek Williams. It was Williams, point guard. Who am I thinking of?
Darren Williams.
Darren Williams. Thank you. And he was signed to a massive contract as well. So it's one of those. Billy King's just bad. Let's just say that.
It was disastrous. A disastrous trade for the Nets that they're still feeling the ramifications from it, and they're starting to get back. The Nets are starting to finally pick up the pieces. It's almost like a hurricane ravaged their team, and now they're starting to build back the infrastructure.
It was Hurricane King. That's what it was.
Yeah. So, my opinion is the Knicks. I think they win this trade. I mean, I think they're a winner in this trade. I'm not saying that there has to be a loser because both teams can definitely win this trade. A lot has to do with Porzingis and his health and his future.
Yeah, we're not saying it's bad as that Brooklyn trade.
But the Mavericks are taking a risk where I don't think that the Knicks took a risk here. Yes, they gave up Porzingis.
But he wanted to leave anyway.
But Porzingis also hasn't done anything in this league. Like, he's been more potential than production, which is not his fault. He's still super young. But the point is that we don't know if he's a great player or if he's just a really good player. We don't know. So, anyways, should we take a break?
Sure, we can do that. But first, I want to talk to you about investing, because investing is always important. And when investing and planning for your retirement, it's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says the dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings before the greatest stock market crash in American history. But this dark window won't be open for long. You can make up to 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There is a very short time to take advantage of this opportunity in the dark window. So once again, go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Just finished talking about the big Porzingis trade to Dallas. Now we're going to be talking about Super Bowl 53. It's this Sunday. And it took long enough. We're finally here. And it seems to me that I've been waiting 2 weeks for this. You've been waiting 2 weeks. We've all been waiting so long for this game to finally be in sight. Now we got it. We're excited, but the question remains, who is going to win the Super Bowl?
Are you asking me? I don't know. It's going to be played on Sunday.
Well, my main question is, the biggest question is just like, if the Rams win, then it's almost is this the start of something great? But they have given up a lot. They're only set for a couple of years, to be honest with you, based off the contracts and trades they made. Also, and you're looking at the New England Patriots, who already have this 18-year dynasty. Mm-hmm. So it's a battle of the young lion versus the old lion kind of type of scenario, in my opinion. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the Kings, versus the Sean McVay, Jared Goff, young lion Simba, who's trying to...
We don't know for sure that the Rams won't be able to sustain this for a long time.
They only have... to me, it feels that way just because of, they only have a few short years until they have to pay a lot of money to a couple of guys.
They've paid Donald. They've paid Gurley. They've already paid Brandon Cooks. Goff would be the next one. Obviously, he's the big one. But, I mean, their main guys are locked up, I'd say.
I don't know. They'll probably lose Sue. They'll probably lose a couple.
Yeah, Sue's gone, but he was a rental anyways.
But they're probably going to lose a couple key secondary players and some linemen. Who knows? But it just feels to me that this team, in the 5 years from now, will not be the same as they are now.
5 years is a long, long time.
Okay,
let's
go
it's hard
3.
to say any team from 5 years from now will be any good without really stretching. But
it's almost like this. It's
the
happening.
Patriots are probably going to be one of the worst 2 or 3 teams in the league in 5 years. I mean, if we're being honest. But
just watch Super Bowl 57 or Super Bowl 58.
In 5 years there will be no
Patriots.
Belichick. There will be no Brady. There will be literally nobody from the Patriot, the Patriots team right now. There might be 7 or 8 players in 5 years that are still on the team, that are currently on the team right now.
But we honestly don't know. Everything could change. But
the Rams are set up, though. I think they're set up as well as any team in the NFL to be good in 5 years. I mean, they got a super young team. They got a young coach. They got a young quarterback. They have a running back who's still young and maybe he's entering his prime. They have 2 young, good wide receivers.
The thing is, they paid Gurley and Donald a lot. Well-deserved. But that just leaves holes in other parts of the team, which I think it's going to be hard to replace what they have now.
You also have to consider the fact that they were very smart in the way that they approached their salary extensions because they know, as well as most teams, that the salary cap in the NFL is about to skyrocket in 2021, and they're expecting it to be 30, 40 million higher than it is right now, which means that when you look at their salary cap, their players might all be on bargain deals in 2 years. All of their players. Their quarterback might be when he signs.
Well, that's the thing. We
back
might be on strike by that point because there's talks about that happening as well.
I mean, that might happen, but the salary cap will go up in the NFL because the revenue's up. The revenue's been up forever. So it's really hard to say that this team is only built for today when – I mean, they're built pretty good for the future, too, because they've gotten ahead of a lot of these contracts.
I'll say it right now. I do not see them making the Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't be a good team, though. That's a very, very
okay. I'll even go.
That's
I'll
a very
go,
tough class. Like
I'll
only
go far,
one
I'll
team
go farther
from the
than
conference.
That. They will
makes
not.
it.
They will not get a first, second seed next 2 or 3 years.
All right. I would bet whatever you wanted against that, but I don't know if we're gonna call this bet 3 years from now. So,
are we going to remember this bet? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a guy like Todd Gurley. He makes literally $5 million a year for the next 5 seasons. Mm-hmm. Like, that's nothing.
I don't say that is nothing, but there is going to be some holes in that team in the next 2 or 3 years. That's what I see. I see some holes forming.
All right.
But regardless, let's talk about now. Mm-hmm. Both teams look amazing. Both teams look elite. Obviously, they're in the Super Bowl. But, again, people are still talking about they wish they had Mahomes versus Goff, but I'm perfectly fine with Brady versus Goff, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people wanted Breeze versus Mahomes in terms of, like, ultimate
2
excitement.
MVP candidates going at it.
Yeah.
Which are those are the two that, but I think Mahomes has it in the bag. But Brady's had a very good season himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate veteran versus young player. I mean, what can you say? It's
almost like Kurt Warner versus Tom Brady.
It's the biggest gap we've ever seen.
Was it 17 years?
Yeah, in age between 2 starters. So, with that being said, it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you say? Is it going to be a game where Jared Goff's youth really comes out? Is it going to be a game where Tom Brady's experience really comes out? Like, how big will those factors be? Obviously, Tom Brady's seen everything in his career. I mean, there's no defense that Wade Phillips can roll out there on Sunday where he's going to be
don't
like,
do zone deep because Tom Brady loves to face zone deep because he tears that up for years. He's been tearing that up for years. Man, he's had some trouble with, but he's always been able to adapt. But I say you got to just I'm worried like they'll try to rush him a lot, but the thing is he knows how to pass the ball when he's under pressure better than most anybody. And all you need is Donald to come through the middle and try to get him. That's all they can hope for, and just try to cover each position, each running back, each wide receiver, because everyone can catch the ball. Mm-hmm. Maybe Sonny Michel is a big question mark when it comes to that, but everyone else can catch the ball and because they're the best at making those 4-yard catches, those 5-yard catches, because that's all they need. Like you said this before. They kill you by 1 million paper cuts.
Yep.
That is their MO. And it's a horrible serial killer, by the way, just killing you with paper cuts. But anyways, it's also the facts that that's just how they've been operating for years. They rarely use the deep ball. They honestly use it when they do play action or faking a short gain to go to a big gain. But that's like why they got Josh Gordon and some other players like that. Remember they had Randy Moss. That's what they did a lot. They faked a short pass and went him deep over the top, and he would just catch them all. And looking at this Patriots team, I have doubted them this whole season, just like I doubted the Chiefs, and I've been proven wrong. So I have my foot in my mouth, and I don't. For my prediction that we'll say shortly, I will not do that this time. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Every Super Bowl that the Pats have played in, at least I don't remember that. What was the score of the first Patriots? The first 2 Super Bowls that they played in that they lost. I don't remember the scores of them, but
they lost by multiple scores.
But in the last all of the Super Bowls they played in under Belichick, all the games have been under 8 points. The end of the score has been under 8-point win. I
do remember they played in Super Bowl 20 against the Bears, which was like one of the biggest blowouts.
Right.
It was 46-10, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that.
That was the great Bears team.
That was the greatest defense. Yeah.
Yeah.
They only scored. Yeah, it was 46-10. They only scored 3.
Scored a touchdown, right?
They only scored 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter. They scored 3 in the first.
Tony Eason the quarterback?
It was. I only remember that team by their old red, beautiful helmet jerseys. The
Tony
old
Eason
school
was one of the 5 quarterbacks picked ahead of Dan Marino, I believe.
But I used to love those old Patriots jerseys too. That's the only thing I remember from that team, to be completely honest with you. Mm-hmm. And then in Super Bowl 31, when they faced the Packers, I think it was like 2 touchdowns, 35-21. Yeah, it was 35-21. And that was when Desmond Howard won the MVP and had those 2 returns for touchdowns. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was
the first and only, right? Well, not the only, but at the time it was, I believe, the first kick return touchdown, I want to say.
Yeah, and the only return man to win the MVP. And this was surprisingly Brett Favre's only Super Bowl victory. Can't believe after how long he's been playing, he's only won 1 Super Bowl.
Yep. He got close a couple other times, but that was it. So all the Patriots Super Bowls end up close games. I mean, under 8 points. Nobody ever really wins in a blowout. Whether they win or lose, they're normally very close. I think are they still a 3-point favorite? I believe that they are. They were.
Last time I checked, they were.
They've been a 3-point favorite.
It changes like daily for this kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's actually, I think it's been stable for the last few days. It was, but 3 points. I mean, that tells you right there that people are expecting a close game. It's hard to tell, man. Todd Gurley's health.
That's the biggest question mark.
I don't know
to
what to make of it. C.J. Anderson is not all of a sudden a great running back, and Todd Gurley's not. Like, there's something more to it. There's obviously something more to it. I don't care who says what. Like, somebody tells you, no, I'm healthy. Like, you know that you shouldn't take that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but
I've heard people say that. Like, well, he says he's healthy, so he's healthy. No,
that doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry.
Healthy,
that means he's not going to say, oh, I can't play, I'm hurt. Why would he say that?
Sorry, a 245-pound journeyman running back didn't all of a sudden become better than Todd Gurley. Like,
he has been playing well, though. You can't take that away from him.
He's been doing what he can do. Like, the holes have been there, and he's ran through them. I mean, I think you're not giving him enough credit. No, I give the credit way more to what Sean McVay and that offensive line have done. I mean, I'm watching the games. I'm seeing he's not getting touched till 5 or 6 yards down the field. If you give a running back that kind of room to run, he's going to tear it up, you know? So I'm not taking anything away from that. They have the amazing offensive line, not giving anything away from them. I'm not taking anything away from C.J. Anderson. I'm just simply not going to say that he's been great. Like, he's been doing his part. He's been doing what he's supposed to do. That's running through wide open lanes and producing. So, Todd Gurley, he looks like he's a little bit slow. He's looked a little bit off. I obviously attribute that to injury because we've seen what he can do when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard for me to pick this game, to be honest with you, just because
they're so the two teams are very different in styles.
I think the Rams are the better team. I think the Rams are the much better football team. But
how many times have we said that about a team against the Patriots, and the Patriots end up winning, though?
Not me. I think the Patriots are better than the Chiefs. I think the Patriots are better than the Chargers, but I think the Rams are better than the Patriots. I just don't know if I trust Jared Goff. I don't know if I trust.
I think people would disagree with you on the fact that the Chiefs were not better than the.
Oh
Patriots,
yeah, a lot of people disagree, but it is what it is. Like no one can say.
Was it just inexperience, you say?
No, I think the Patriots are just better than the Chiefs.
Okay.
I mean, they won, right?
I mean, yeah.
They beat them twice. They beat them twice this year. I don't know. Like, is it close? Yeah, it's close. It's not like they're way better.
I think it just led to coaching at the end of it,
but coaching is a part of who's better, right? Like, it's not just the 11 players.
I agree, but I just think if you had to rank everything they had, put like in a category, like offense or players wise, I think the Chiefs are the better team, in my opinion. But what the Patriots had, what they were better at, was the most crucial ones, you could say.
I mean, you could break it down position by position, but I don't think that you'll find that the Chiefs were better if you just ranked every position.
This is a whole nother story for later.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there because the Patriots are obviously the best team in the AFC. I mean, yeah, people can say, oh, the dynasty's over or they're not as good as they used to be.
You can't say that anymore since they're in the Super Bowl.
They went on the road against the Chiefs. They won. They've proven everyone wrong, I guess. Not everyone, but most people.
And then they call the overtime rigged because of the fact whoever gets the ball first wins, which is understandable because it's kind of flawed, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone would agree with that. And it's just they are very good. The Pacers are just great. Let's just get real. This is one of the dynasties that will never be duplicated again.
Offense for an entire half.
Yeah, and this is a team that this run of excellence will never be duplicated again. There's no way.
Yeah, probably not. So yeah, this game's a little bit tough to predict. I'll let you go ahead and make your prediction.
See, now this is where it gets tough. But I've doubted this team, and you say the Rams are better. Talent-wise, I would agree. But bottom line is, with Tom Brady on that other sideline, I have to go with the Patriots.
All right, and your score prediction will be?
And I know Romo said 28-24, and I'm not going to agree with that totally. So I will say, though, it's going to be around there. I will say 38-35 victory for the Patriots.
Yep. Well, I'm definitely going to take the Rams just because you took the Pats. I'm not going to – that wouldn't be fun. I think the Rams win this game. I think that their front four – does enough to affect Brady. I got to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel maybe I'm not going to ask you, but I'll just make a statement. Doesn't this Rams team feel oddly similar to the teams that the Patriots have lost to in the Super Bowl before? Definitely inexperienced quarterback compared to Brady. A front four that can rush the passer without blitzing. Two big characteristics that the Eagles and the Giants had previous.
Mm-hmm.
You said it earlier. To beat Brady, you can't play zone. To beat Brady, you can't blitz.
Yeah. He knows how to pass under pressure better than anybody.
Aaron Donald, Sue. I expect the Rams to get enough pressure on Brady to make it a little bit tough.
Donald himself will bring the pressure. That's how talented he is.
Now, I don't know. I know that Belichick's a great coach, but I'm not as convinced that McVay's not. Now, Goff is obviously
I'm not taking anything away from the Rams. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying Goff is a young player. He could definitely get rattled in this game, but I think with McVay, they'll look to establish the run early. I think they'll rush for a lot of yards. It doesn't matter if it's with Anderson or Gurley because I think the scheme is that good. And I think the Rams will win this game. They'll win this game by a score of 31-28.
Okay. So we see one-score games here.
Yes. I think it'll be a very good Super Bowl. In fact, I think it will go down as a great Super Bowl. I don't know if that is to be true. I mean...
Yeah, we could be all sorts of wrong. I mean... Who knows what's going to happen? The Saints might charge the field.
I really only remember one previous Super Bowl in the last 10 years where I knew it was going to be a terrible game, and that was the Broncos and the Seahawks, and it was a terrible game. That the Broncos were way overmatched in that game.
Looking at percentages of times he's under pressure, Brady, in a Super Bowl, anytime it's 40% or higher, he's lost.
Yep.
That is a major factor right there. So if they can pressure him, just
the key for the Patriots is their run game. If they can run the ball,
and they have Sony Michel, who's been playing amazing in the playoffs.
If they can run the ball, and they can establish a run. But you know what? The Cowboys could not establish the run against the Rams. And that is interesting because the Cowboys have a better offensive line than the Patriots and a better running back.
But is that play calling or is that just defense?
You have to look at the fact that the Rams having the worst rush defense in the NFL this year is a facade. They're one of the top 5 rush defense teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Are their numbers poor? Absolutely. But when you get an Aaron Donald and a Sue and those guys motivated, and they are looking to stop the run, they're as good as anyone. We saw it in this playoffs. I mean, the Saints couldn't run the ball against the Rams. The Cowboys couldn't run the ball against the Rams. Rams win on the ground. They win the ground game, and I think that affects the pass game a lot, and the Rams will get the win. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, there's could be all sorts of differences in this game because of the fact we are in a very interesting scenario here where these two teams have just been great. There's no question about it. And I think, like you said, the key factor is going to be the running game, I think, for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. All right. So I think we should probably go to a break. And then when we come back, we got to talk about the action in the NBA because there's some interesting games last night. LeBron's back. What happened in Oakland while the 76ers traveled down there to face the Red Hot Warriors. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about investing and planning for your retirement. It's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says the dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings before the greatest stock market crash in American history. But this dark window won't be open for long. You can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months. According to the research of renowned Harvard economist Harry Dent, though, this window could slam shut later this year, and nobody on Wall Street is expecting it. This dark window is something bigger by far than anything he's predicted up to this point, and you can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There's a very short time to take advantage of this dark window, so go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Finished talking about the Super Bowl that's going to be this Sunday, but now we have some big news also, as LeBron James came back from injury last night to face the Clippers, which we did not expect. We expected him to maybe come back against the Warriors, we were predicting he wouldn't.
I think he was mad that there was a bigger headline in the NBA other than his return, so he decided, you know what, I'm going to play. Can't have everybody talk about this Porzingis guy any further.
I think he already announced he was returning to the game in this game before that even happened.
No, that's not true. He wasn't announced that he was going to play until an hour and a half before tip-off. In fact, there was early reports by the beat writers for the Lakers that he was not going to play.
Oh, okay. I don't remember when he announced it, so I'm wrong on that part.
He almost had a triple-double, though, in his return.
1 assist away, yes. 24 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. Playing at the level that he, needed to be.
It's a big win for the Lakers, considering the fact they blew a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. They blew a 7-point lead in the final minute. They had to go to OT to wrap it up.
A win's a win. It's a talented Clippers team. A win's a win. You take what you can get. There was, with LeBron back, it seemed like Kuzma just is not going to be the same guy we've seen when LeBron's out, because he was only there for 23 minutes, 10 points, Well,
he was also coming back from injury.
This is true.
He was going to play.
But the same was LeBron as well, but he played 4. I guess maybe LeBron is a different case scenario for than Kuzma. But I don't know. I just think... Do you think with Kuzma coming off this injury, is that why, he's in the talks with the Pelicans trade for Anthony Davis? He's, probably one of the main ones in that trade. Do you think that's, would be, if they were even considering it, would be a hesitant for the Pelicans because he's coming off an injury, or do you think it's not a factor?
Minor injury.
So it's not a factor to you?
If he had, a big, a career-threatening injury or a season-ending type of injury... But no, minor stuff, tweaks here and there. No, I don't think so.
Okay. I just think sometimes those minor ones turn into bigger ones. There's just.
I mean, if anybody, if you're going to talk about that, it's more the Lonzo Ball being out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't take any.
And Lonzo Ball has his camp, quote unquote, has said he doesn't want to play in New Orleans, which would be a red flag for me too if I'm in New Orleans. But I guess it doesn't matter because he has no say in it.
Yeah. He hasn't earned.
The right to say that, yeah.
He hasn't earned the right to pick his next destination.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. But yes, LeBron comes back, and it looks like he's trying to take this team back into the playoff spots. They are a game behind Los Angeles Clippers after that win, and are still in the fight.
Yeah, they're probably the heavy favorite to make that last playoff spot, if not even higher, because you look how tight the West is. All it takes is a couple good weeks, and you're in fifth.
Mm-hmm. There was there was actually 2 more big games yesterday. We have to talk about the Warriors because their streak is over. Mm-hmm. We thought they would never lose another game.
76ers had a big win.
We were obviously joking around at that fact, but we didn't expect it to end so soon because Embiid just destroyed them with 26 points and 20 rebounds. Simmons also had 26 points. It was a very good game from both sides.
Embiid really shut down DeMarcus Cousins.
He did. DeMarcus Cousins only got 7 points, 3 of 10 from the field. He was not a. What's the word? He was not a factor in this game at all.
Nope.
But who was a factor in this game for the Warriors was Stephen Curry. Shocking.
The 76ers' third quarter was big time. They scored 42 points, and they were behind in that game. Yeah, they really made a statement. The Warriors looked flustered. So it was a big win for the 76ers. You said yesterday that if they won, that they would be a contender. So
Yeah. Seeing how Embiid played against DeMarcus and seeing how Ben Simmons played himself, this team looks pretty darn good to me, and I think they can maybe upset in the East.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're obviously one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference.
But
they could move past Milwaukee. They could move past Toronto.
When it comes down to playoff time, I can see this team in the Eastern Conference Finals without question.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't, it's a failure season for them. That's for sure. This team is expected.
This was a statement win for sure.
This team is expected to do things. A lot of years of trusting the process has come to this season needing to be a big season for
this
them.
Is now the process. This is the end of process. This is do it now. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing it.
I will say, though, the Warriors looked really off last night. Obviously, when you beat the Warriors, you have to play a really good game. But the Warriors played a really poor game, and they didn't shoot the 3. They were terrible from the three-point line. They were missing wide-open threes.
Well, except for Stephen Curry.
Mm-hmm.
10 of 18. Durant did go 1 of 8, which is concerning.
Yeah, so the rest of the team made 1 3.
Yeah.
Everybody else missed every other shot that they took from three-point land except for Durant had 1 of 8, which is terrible. So
they also didn't have Klay Thompson, granted.
Yeah, they didn't have Klay Thompson.
But I'm not taking this win away from the 76ers.
They also are still limiting Cousins' minutes, so it's not like he's playing a full boat. He's still playing relatively limited minutes. They sub him out pretty quick. But, they're playing the long game there. Makes total sense.
But, again, you cannot take this away from the 76ers.
Oh, I'm not taking it away, but let's not get it twisted. They did not beat a Golden State Warriors at full strength. It's a great win for them.
They did beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a great win for them.
Yeah. And Bucks made also a statement win against the Raptors, 105-92.
Mm-hmm. Definitely on the road.
Yes, and
that's a bigger win than the Sixers win, for sure.
This one's a battle for the East, and I think the Bucks proved that maybe they're the best team in the East and not the Raptors.
Well, they definitely have increased the gap.
Yeah.
Now I believe they're a game and a half higher than the Raptors.
Yes.
There are 3 less losses in the loss column, same amount of wins, so that's a big deal.
And I want to say both benches actually played pretty well. They had multiple guys with 10 or more points, and just it seems like one of the reasons why I think both these teams are so good is the bench really contributes, and both of these benches continue to contribute, even when Giannis has a 19-9 game, which is not that good for him, but still there's managed to someone on the bench get 16 points. It's like that's what you do to win games. To have
it's crazy
that
that Giannis outperformed Kawhi, even though
Kawhi only had 16 points. But like I said, like when your star players has trouble like that, it's always nice to have a deep bench, and both these teams have that deep bench.
Mm-hmm.
Like George Hill coming off the bench, he's a starter on some teams.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely, and he was traded to Cleveland to help LeBron win a championship. In sense.
Yeah.
So he's obviously no slouch. He's not just some bench player. He's a very good player, no doubt about it. Eric Bledsoe is a great player. Brook Lopez. This team seems just really talented, and they prove it night in and night out. And this is just a statement win for the Bucks. And honestly, the Raptors look pretty poor against one of the better teams in the league. And would that worry you? Is that troublesome for Raptors?
Nope.
No. They lost by double digits. That's why I'm asking the question.
You can't take anything from a single game in this league. It's 82 games.
Mm-hmm.
Teams will have bad nights. The Suns will beat teams by 15. The Bulls crushed the Heat the other night. So I mean, no, it's hard to say one particular game. That's why, the 76ers win was big yesterday, but we still have to see them do more. We have to see them consistently beat the better teams. Which they can. They have the young talent to do it, but that's where they are.
And Milwaukee has the best record in the league as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
More wins, and I believe they have the less losses than anyone else also. So they are doing extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see them holding on to this best record in the NBA for a period of time?
Sure, they could. It's the best record in the NBA is not important to the Warriors. It's just not. They probably will end up with the best record, but it's not like they're going Milwaukee. It means more to them. It means they've never done that. This team hasn't done that. Giannis hasn't done that. It's all new
important
territory
to them.
For them.
Yeah, and the Warriors have been there, done that because they broke the record 73-9. I think we already are.
And the fact is that home court advantage means more for Milwaukee than it does Golden State. Golden State, even if Golden State ended with the 3rd best record in the West. Do you think they'd really care about home court advantage?
They could be 8th seed and they wouldn't care.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
They could literally rest everybody, and for the rest of the season, they'll be fine.
But when you look at Milwaukee and Toronto, if those are the 2 teams that do end up in the Eastern Conference Finals, home court advantage does matter there because these teams are so close. So it does mean a lot for Milwaukee.
And we were talking about the best teams in the East, and the Pacers are still in moved down to 4th. They've lost 4 straight, which is absolutely troubling. Which seems to me I don't see them making the playoffs.
They'll make it, man.
Barely, though.
They're still, 8 games ahead of...
They're not being going to pass the first round. We can agree on that.
Probably not. Probably not.
Because, honestly, Brooklyn is moving up there. I can see Brooklyn moving up
above the Pacers. The thing about
the
Pacers, though, is that they played really well without Oladipo before, this year. So, I don't know.
Losing him for the whole season, that's crushing.
I mean, that definitely hurts them. Don't get me wrong. But... I mean, I don't think they're going to free fall out of the playoffs. Or they're still going to be a top 5 seed, in my opinion.
Still top. Honestly, I can see Brooklyn maybe jumping them.
Maybe.
Because they've been looking pretty good. I know they just lost.
Brooklyn would be the only team that could do it. There's no way in hell Miami or Charlotte or anyone else is going. Those two teams aren't even above 500. And Indiana's 13 games over. Yeah.
But still, 4 straight losses, that just shows how much they're missing Oladipo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's a big loss. The East is just so poor that, even with that big of a loss, Indiana might lose a spot, maybe 2 at the most in the standings. But if they were in the West, it'd be crushing. It'd be a crushing loss.
But, yeah. And,
if in the West, if Portland or San Antonio or Houston lost their best player or one of their best players, they would not make the playoffs. Not even close.
And honestly, with this loss of Oladipo, do you see them making it if they make the playoffs, whatever seed they're in? Do you see them making it past the first round?
Depends, but probably not.
I don't see it either. Hate to say it, but they lost to the Magic last night. And
I will say, though, if they were matched up with Philly, pressure would be on the Sixers, that's for sure. They can't lose to a Oladipo-less Pacers team,
But, I mean, the Magic's Terrence Ross went off with 30 points off the bench. So that was a big, he was going off and I was seeing him drain. He was draining threes. He had 5 threes coming off the bench. And this was that's kind of when I went on. I'm like, that's interesting. it just seems the Pacers kind of demoralized. I know that's an obvious statement, but it's more along less they're still reeling from the fact that they lost Oladipo, and they should move on. They should be trying to get better, but it just seems like they're not. It's troubling.
Yeah. So in other sports news, Bryce Harper met with the Padres.
Just do something.
So is
make
somebody
up your mind.
going to sign during the Super Bowl?
If they do, I'm no.
You know what I find interesting? The NBA is inching closer and closer to the NFL in terms of popularity.
Yeah.
This entire week has been dominated by NBA. The Super Bowl week has been dominated by NFL or NBA talk. Trades, rumors.
But,
it's kind of crazy. I don't remember that ever happening.
Once the offseason begins for NFL, it's going to switch. Because the NFL is going to be all the talk in the offseason.
But it is interesting. The NBA is edging the gap. The gap's still big, but it's getting closer.
Would you say that the NFL is the more talked about offseason than the NBA?
It used to be. I don't know if that's true anymore because of how condensed the NBA offseason is. Right after the NBA Finals is the draft and free agency. That's a big deal. It's all right there. Boom, boom, boom. Around the 4th of July, the end of June, early July. I remember Kevin Durant famously signed on 4th of July a few years ago with the Warriors. That was a big, big deal. So, yeah, the NFL is king in this country, but NBA it's pushing.
Yeah, but I don't see them overtaking them, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, maybe not for a few years, but you never know with the NFL and concussions and all that stuff. That stuff's a big deal. I don't think it's out of question that the NFL might disappear in our lifetime. I really don't think that's out of question. Whereas NBA is going to be around forever. I mean, basketball is a sport that people like. It's a sport where there's, players aren't having to worry about their livelihoods and things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I kind of see where we're getting at. Do you think they should condense the NFL? Obviously, or do you think it's fine the way it is?
I think it's great the way it is. I mean, it's must-see TV for their draft. NFL draft is 3 days on television.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. When it comes to comparing the drafts, I feel like the NFL is way more interesting or way more looked at and way more talked about than the NBA one.
Yep. Yep.
But I won't take nothing away from the NBA draft. I just think the NFL draft is it's an event.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it as an event like the NBA draft. The NBA draft's not an event as the NFL.
The NFL draft, there's more, what's the word? There's more hope for your team. If you don't have one of the top picks in the NBA draft, it's just whatever. Like, you don't expect a player to,
if you're a top 10, then you're like, ooh.
The fact of the matter is, in the NFL, you could have the worst pick in the first round, and you could just draft the next Hall of Fame player. I'm not saying you can't in the NBA, but the chances are so much bigger in the NFL that you draft impact players that are not the top of the draft. Whereas NBA, it's pretty hard to find those impact players who are not top 5 picks or so.
Yeah. It's a very exciting time when it comes to these off seasons. Honestly, some people look more forward to the off seasons of these leagues than the regular season.
Anyways, I think that's our show for today. Join us Monday where we recap the exciting Super Bowl. We will see what happens and who will be crowned Super Bowl 53 champion.
Ooh, that's exciting. As always, I'm Jeff Melanoff. That's Mike Souza. We'll see you on Monday in the aftermath of the Super Bowl.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.